Welcome to the Autism Chronicles podcast. My name is Esther. Please follow us on our autism journey as we share personal stories, challenges, breakthroughs, and all the practical tips that we have learned raising our son Ziza. I hope our conversations inspire and encourage people on their own autism journey. This podcast will not give any medical advice, just a space to share, learn, and grow together. We're back. It's episode 6 of the Autism Chronicles. I hope you've been following. And today's episode is quite interesting and one that would resonate with anyone who's a parent or a carer of a child on the spectrum. We're talking about
Stigma.
Yeah.
Discrimination. Non-inclusion.
Yeah.
Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
Non-inclusiveness or lack of inclusiveness or something like that.
Inclusion. Some people say inclusivity.
Stigma.
I don't know. I always prefer to say inclusion.
Stigma. It's. I think it's a big deal, and I think it's important to talk about that because it's something that people living with autism, especially, go through. But then even people who are, like you said, carers and parents of autism. I think that a lot changes when you rock up with an autistic child. I think it's at the root of why a lot of people hide it too, as well. Yeah. So I mean, how did you feel I
can tell you.
Like when we got the diagnosis.
Before we even got the diagnosis. So just as a mom, having that intuition that something was wrong, you could already feel the pushback from people. You know, if you remember when we were around family or friends at somebody's party and they had their own kids, and I noticed that Ziza wasn't like, oh, this person just pointed at something, and it just hit me that Ziza has never pointed or something. And I kept saying, even with the speech, and it's almost like, don't even go there, you know? There's nothing wrong with him, especially with the yes, in Jesus' name. Don't speak negatively, or it's almost like they're telling you you're like maybe placing a curse on the child that something is going to go wrong. So it was funny to me because I'm seeing something, and I'm trying to talk about it. For me, I mean, you're that kind of person as well. There's an issue or you have challenges or something, you just want a solution. And it's always easier when you know what the issue is. Then you can work towards getting a lasting solution. But it's like people don't even want to hear that there's an issue. So it was that.
So you felt like no one was listening to you.
They didn't even want to hear. And they made me, so in a way, they also made me feel bad for even thinking there was something wrong. At that point, I wasn't even sure what was wrong, but just saying, I think, he's late, speech, no speech.
Not hitting milestones.
It's not hitting milestones, that kind of thing. And they were like, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. Why do you say that? He's well in Jesus' name. And then some people who don't want to use a spiritual angle just go, boys are like that. And some people even said, because Zara was fast, she talked at maybe
Zara is our first daughter, by the way,
or something. And so you're comparing any reason at all that they had reasons for why I shouldn't be saying that my son had a problem or there was something wrong. So
okay, so but then after the diagnosis, it became more. Yeah. It became more clear. So it's how you. So how did you feel that stigma? I mean, I have a few examples, but I mean, for you, I always wondered. For you, how did you what was the most obvious ones? Like you say,
so when you
for example, with family and friends, what was the? Because when you say stigma, it's like people started treating you differently, slightly, right?
So obviously, like. Not necessarily like close friends, because of course your friends should be people who understand and stuff. But like generally, at that point, of course, we had met other people who maybe doing school runs as mothers. You've met some other moms. You've done this, so you get invited to places, And I feel like with Ziza after the diagnosis, it was almost like if you bring them into this space, is going to disrupt. So imagine somebody having like a birthday party. Maybe they had planned it, and they want it to be a certain way, and then having to invite us to that kind of space would be like, okay, if he starts to throw tantrums or picking things,
so they were excluding this.
So that isolation and basically excluding you from it, and so I don't think we really got invited to a lot of parties, even in school. When he started school, it's mainstream. So in a school that he was included, so he was there with other neurotypical kids. When it's somebody's birthday or something like that, you never get an invitation card in his bag or anything like that, because again, I don't know if that is because maybe he also didn't connect with other kids or something. But that's how I felt.
Some people will say maybe also they didn't want to put you, to any inconvenience for you as well. It could be, like, it's possible that
but then give me the opportunity to say, oh, we can't come, because it's too stressful for us.
But you're saying that you'd have liked to be asked.
Yeah, at least, yes. You ask, and then it's my choice to say, it's going to be too stressful for me as a mom, or even for Ziza being in that kind of environment, and then we can decline. But then not having anyone think about you, because I think sometimes it's maybe too stressful for them. Being in that environment is not. It's going to kind of like spoil the whole their perfect planning or something.
Plan, yeah.
Yes. So
for me, it was like there are certain places that I felt it as well. For me, it was more like, what happened? Do you know what happened? Like, is it something in your blood? Like,
yes, that one, like, the genetic aspect.
Is it something wrong with your genes or something wrong with your whatever? And generally, people look at you differently because from the point of view of the child now, or the person, people start, using words like, oh, he's like retarded,
No, that one is so.
People just see it as abnormal. He's retarded. There's something wrong with him. He's other people compare autism to an intellectual.
Yes, there's
to an intellectual deficit,
and they don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference.
Yes.
So when they see that this guy's, Paul's son is retarded.
There's another word, the I am word. I will not say it. I will not say it. Don't worry. Go on. No.
Why? Why not?
It's okay. Just go on.
I don't understand. Is he share with the people?
In Nigerian speak, they say, "Oh, he's an imbe."
Like an imbecile.
Yes, and
yeah.
Oh, anytime I hear that, I don't even know how I feel. Like, it brings me to tears.
But I think people
say it with so much confidence, because
people say worse things. I've heard people use, oh, why are you behaving like ADHD, like an insult?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of them.
Or why are you behaving?
I think I need to discuss that as well, because it has become an insult now.
As an insult. You're behaving like one of those people that have autism. And people laugh about it. So like, there's a lot of, and I think I found it quite. I've found myself correcting some people. I say, you can't say that like that. People who actually suffer from this thing, and there are people as well. You can't say that. I remember the church story.
Yeah. So some of my experiences have not been directly with Ziza, but the church one, I happened to, how it was. Ziza loved going to church, or he loves going to church
because of the.
He really, really enjoys it, and
I think he really liked the singing. A lot,
and other things, the activities and everything.
Yeah.
Well, our church thankfully saw the need to have like a class, because I don't want us to go into that, but a lot of parents, we talked about isolation. Some people don't even go to church because of all the things that the child is shouting, and people are telling you, take care of your child, or control your child, and that kind of thing. So I was happy to find a church that had a class that put something in place, to support children with autism,
special needs,
so that
in general,
so that their parents could have that time as well, to worship or whatever. So I decided to volunteer, and be like a teacher. And so did a bit of training and, would spend time with the kids and watch them. Ziza enjoyed it. They had activities. The church bought all the resources, sensory, everything, So every Sunday he looked forward to going to church. One of the things I noticed was that there are many kids, other kids now in supposedly neurotypical classrooms, right, in the church. And for me now, have been a mother of a child with autism, right, it was easy to pick out that child probably is on the spectrum, right? And you could tell because
you can see the signs.
Yeah, you can see the signs. And then obviously there are teachers in those classrooms struggled to control those kids. So most of the time, because we had somebody who's obviously an expert in that field, she was the head of the class, so they come to her and they say, oh, this child, we can't deal with it, we can't handle it. Can he be in this class? And, so
what was the issue? What actually
so a pushback. So usually church has ended and then a parent came to pick her child from the class and she was told, oh, this has been our experience with your daughter and we think, so he's in that class. So she came over to my class and, oh my goodness, she went crazy. And I said, ma'am, good afternoon. Yeah, so you have to sign your daughter out and everything. She started to scream. First of all, I didn't drop my daughter in that class. And I said, well, but she's been well taken care of. And she even enjoyed the activities and playing with other kids. And she was like, no, I don't want my child around these children. I don't want my child to be here with these children.
Exposed with children.
Yes. And I said, I don't understand what you mean by these children. Like, what does it mean? It's not like they have a disease or anything like that. So I don't know how it's going to affect. She just told me, I don't care. Like, she wasn't ready to listen. And she just kept going on and on. She was shouting. We had to get the supervisor and all that. So I was like, oh, okay. There are people who actually feel, that their children should be around only neurotypical kids, And I think at some point she felt kind of ashamed, because I wanted her to explain to me what her...
Did you ask her what is your objection exactly?
I did. What's the problem? Why do you feel so strongly about this? What's going to happen to your child? And she was like, I don't care. I don't want to hear anything. Just don't bring my child and keep. I don't want my child around these children.
For the child, because if a child had obvious sign, then she could miss that whole early intervention just by, and I think we spoke about denial already. But yeah, I mean, that's a good example, because one of the things that causes the stigma is, people have a lot of preconceived notions about autism, and they have a lot of things that they think autism is or is not, and one of them is, can it spread? Like, a lot of people think that if you spend time with, if you put two kids that have, people feel that, kids
just being around them
transfer something to one another. And I get it, because kids tend to form a bond when they play. But I think it's quite ridiculous for someone to think that, their kid hanging out with a kid on the spectrum is going to pick up, symptoms of autism. That's one. I think that's talking about the preconceived notions now. That's one. Another one is, the parents. Like, did the parents do something bad? Is there bad parenting or something?
Bad parenting, and that's why all the behaviors are.
All the behaviors are.
And it's nothing like that.
Yeah, and it's not like that. There's also, I think, people feeling that, like you said earlier, that it's a disease. Again, that's why she's probably thinking, okay, I mean, is autism a disease, right? But it's not a disease.
It's like something contagious.
It's not a disease, but a lot of people think that it is a disease.
It's not. So for somebody who has never even heard of autism, who might be listening, it's just a difference in the way the brain works. Let me put it that way. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, right? Yeah. So it has nothing to do with... it's not contagious. It's none of that.
And like I said earlier, another preconceived notion is that people link autism with like intellectual deficits, and I get why they think so, because sometimes things that seem easy for neurotypical people to do seem harder for. But I don't think it has anything to do with the level of intelligence or
No.
with the level
No.
of
And that's what's because society.
This guy is retarded. He's just because he probably has some sensory or speech issues, speech delay. So he must be retarded.
Especially with the non-verbal children, right? People just think just because he can't speak, it means that he can't think or he can't do anything. So and it's in fact that non-speaking does not mean non-thinking.
And then there's also so what is another thing that causes stigma or discrimination?
Well, I think just people sometimes are religious leanings as well.
So I think there's a lack of understanding around ASD.
Oh, of course, with anything as well.
That sort of causes it. And I think some of the things that you see that lead to things that look like discrimination, maybe for example, I wrote down here, for example, a lot of times people now leave children undiagnosed and without a specific plan, or so those cultural things lead to people refusing. Like that lady now, for example, she wouldn't even want to hear anything. Refuse to get her child checked.
Definitely not
she
going.
refused to get any assessment, and then at the end of the day, the child now remains undiagnosed for a long time, and then that further exacerbates the problem because as without early intervention, a lot of the symptoms get worse. Another thing is because we're in Africa, a lot of our systems medically don't have any systematic provision for people on the spectrum, people with autism and sort of things like that. So, and because there's no specialized support, a lot of times you see people with not only autism but mental health disorders and things like on the streets, on the road. Sometimes they're just walking up and down. You see a guy in traffic. So our image of people with mental health challenges in Africa is quite different from some other countries. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So a lot of people's first experience with someone with mental health issues is a madman on the road with torn clothes and everything, going up and down.
And that's why when you say mental health, that's the picture that they have
immediately.
So they reject it.
They go to that
because
I
can't be mad. Yes.
So and then you see people. And that's because unfortunately in Nigeria, whatever, there's actually no systematic, plan that helps people who have challenges to be managed. So, in a sense, I sort of understand why the average African, again, I don't want to. I'm not trying to. Of course, I'm proud of my culture, but it has a lot of problems, right? So the minute they say, okay, attention deficit, or they say OCD, or they say this person, because there's a whole range of mental issues, right? A whole range of spectral issues on ASD, but all of them are bunched into this image of a madman or a mad woman. There's that mad woman in the corner in Lagos. It's always there with pots and pans or lying down at the roundabout and have those kind of things walking around. So that image in the head is so scary for people that once they see that child or anything, they sort of go crazy. And if you look at the way our society treats people like that, that transfers into the stigma.
Of course, it's about
transfers into the discrimination. Transfers into. So there's a cause for these things, especially in our society.
It's because I know society says this or society sees it this way that I don't want to accept it because then it's almost like
you label me with that same thing.
Yes, it's so. It's bad because we've. You know how I think when Caesar started school, there was a lady who had a neighbor and said to me, I didn't even know, I've lived in my house for over, I think 6 years or something like that. And I always see my neighbors and we greet, we chat and all that. I never knew that they had a child on the spectrum.
Chained to the bed. I've seen
inside
chained to the bed.
house, never seen.
I've seen chained to the bed.
Never seen before. She said, I know there are 3 kids. Apparently they have 4 kids. and that one child has been inside the house.
Yeah, there are people
like
there are
just
people who I know, of course,
completely cut off.
We can't
so
call it any names.
even when I found that hard to believe, because I said, oh, if they're your neighbors, then haven't you visited them before? She said, oh yeah, we sit down, we have drinks and stuff, and I never knew. She said it was by mistake that I don't know what happened. Either the child came down or something happened that the mother had to attend to, and she was like, what's happening? She says, oh, actually my fourth child or something. And I say, you have another child? Say, yes. I've never seen this child before. I say, he has his, even the words she used, he's retarded or he's what. And she's like, but that's not reason enough to lock up somebody like that.
I was going to say to you, unfortunately, this is not as rare as you think in Nigeria. I don't know why you think it's rare, because like you have so much experience in this thing. You know that it's not rare. You know that this thing happens. It happens a lot. Even in my even in my family, right? And you know about. This. Yeah, we've had chained to the bed. Yeah, definitely. There are people. Sometimes you know. They've had a kid for 30 years. There are people who are on the spectrum who have been at home for 30 years. 25-year-old person is in the house, right? They haven't received any intervention. They haven't received any sort of medical care. They haven't received. Everybody just the kid is retarded, and because of the way the symptoms progress, if you don't intervene, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you know what I mean.
The person is probably frustrated and all that, and if the person was having like a meltdown,
it's like a self-fulfilling
prophecy. They probably say the person is mad.
Absolutely, because you remember what we're talking about with Ziza, when because he couldn't communicate, he would get angry. Imagine that times 10. If we didn't do what we did to support him, imagine
the
10
anxiety,
years. Imagine 10
the
years
anger,
of frustration.
Yes.
Eventually, you can easily give into like madness, right? But I don't know why you're shocked about
So for me, I think knowing how society perceives all this, and then their reaction to it, right? I'm just used to a more not locking the person away, but mostly, I think for me it's more like, so people living in the city. And because of the stigma, the shame, they're hiding. They not even hiding. So it's like sending the child back to the village. It's something that is more,
You're more used to seeing that.
I'm more used to seeing. Yes, it's more common for me.
But I think it's all part of the same problem.
So sometimes those families too, you don't know that they have any child because the child is sent to the village to stay with grandma. And nobody knows. So they're here in the city.
But the thing is,
nobody knows that there's a child.
Part of the same problem, and it all leads to the same thing, which is I was saying earlier, that the child remains undiagnosed, doesn't get a specific plan, doesn't get support. Whether they chain the child to a bed, send them back to the village, or hide them away,
or even keep them in the house,
which a lot of people do. A lot of people don't hide them away. There are people who I've known for years, and as much as we talk about autism, sometimes even too much, people say, you people,
they think
you advocate, why are you oversharing all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, actually, we feel people need to because
know.
People don't know how much. Like the truth is that there's a lot of people that I saw some numbers that it used to be 5 out of 50, I think.
But it keeps increasing.
1 in 50, and then now it's a lot more. There are people who have sort of known for years and never knew they had autistic kids. And when they say, okay, by the way, Paul, actually, I have a kid. I'm like, bro, but I've known you for.
Why have you?
I've known
not
you for
shared?
10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm always online talking about autism. I'm doing GT Bank Autism Conference. I'm doing you don't said anything, but then after a while, I can't judge it. People have their own process, right? I remember there was a time when you called me and said, "Hey, Paul, there's a dad that I want you to talk to," because while the wife had agreed and was trying to help the boy, the father said, "No way!
He told me
I'm not doing this. You guys are out of your minds. My son cannot have any autism." And then he stopped supporting his wife and the
I
kid.
gave myself sense, right? Because clearly it was causing some kind of issues between them, right? And she felt maybe, okay, this is somebody that can talk to him and he would understand.
So, I mean, at first, when you called me, and it was actually the first time that I actually saw myself as somebody, because, like, you know, me, I don't really like, you know,
getting involved in other people's...
I don't like talking to people like that. And, you know, I don't really see myself as some sort of, you know, when people say advocate, I don't really like, you know, I just want to take care of my boy, you know, you know what I mean? But it was the first time I actually saw myself playing that role, because it was the first time someone came to my house and said, please come and talk to my husband. And when I met the guy,
educated,
and you know, and I was expecting to see some sort of you know, bumpkin from the village. I said, you know, we can have some local people. But this guy was a, you know, educated, well, whatever guy, and I think where was he from? I think, you know, and I was like, sir, I hear you're having challenges coming to terms with this autism, and he said, you know, I don't know about you, but
my son cannot have.
My son cannot, and I told him, unfortunately, he definitely can. Right? I don't know who told you he cannot have. There's nothing like cannot. And he was, you know, I have people tell me, you tell me all the time that I have a way of being a little bit blunt. People, like, this is something that I try to work on it, but you know, and I told him, I said, listen, tell me what you're going through. Let me understand. And as he was talking, I just realized it's all about stigma. I said, how can he, you know, in his family, no one has ever
Nobody has. And why do they say that?
It's the same thing that my cousin's wife was telling me. You know, again, you know, I don't like to talk about Christians on the thing.
Please,
you know,
stay away from that.
No, I won't stay away from it, because it's a fact, right? I think religion is a problem for things like this. It's a massive problem, because it lures people into a false sense of something. They don't know what they're talking about, and they just run to religion for every solution when it doesn't make sense. So I think, hold on. So it's the same thing that my cousin's wife told me. Oh,
have you prayed enough?
Yeah.
And we don't have this.
Hey, in our family, there's no this. This is the work of the devil. And, you know, I just think we should stand in prayer. And in my mind, I'm like, get out of my house before I, you know, kick you out, right? And it was the same thing that I saw with this guy. It never occurred in my family. How can I accept this kind of thing? A son of mine cannot have that kind of thing. I even felt him doubting it was his kid. I was expecting him to say, I'm not sure
who fathered this child.
And
a lot of men actually think that way.
I listened to him.
I don't know where it came from.
When he was done, you know, in my usual style, when he was done, I asked him, are you done? He said, yes. I said, Oga.
Unfortunately for you.
I said, Oga, you are talking a lot of nonsense. I said, first things first, that boy is a spitting image of you. I saw the boy. I said, "This that boy is your son." First of all, let's not even start playing games. I said, secondly, no matter what you say or what you believe, I want you to understand that the more time you spend doing this nonsense, doing this my feelings, whatever nonsense, the more time you waste that this boy can be getting help. I told him at the end of the day, you are going to kill this child, and I think that's when I said, bro. And I showed him this. I said, this is my son, right? Look at how beautiful the boy is. He's a beautiful boy, right? Talented
and they're
boy.
usually so handsome.
I don't
know.
And then now luckily he started supporting. There's one, I remember Femi called me and told me there was a lady whose husband left her.
There's a number of those.
Yeah, there was one of the kids. I think two of the kids had autism. The husband just left her and went and married somebody else and left her there. So all these things are
It's like I said, it's embedded in it's negative. What do you call it? Just misconceptions, right? That are that are cultural for me. We're talking about especially
this is something I'm more passionate about because it annoys me a lot.
So because again, what you just talked about now, the guy is probably thinking, he's not thinking of a child
at all.
How will people see me? How can I be the father of this kind of child? And then when you look at also like culturally, let me even give an example of wanting to get married. going to see the in-laws and these kind of things, and you're just introducing your girlfriend or boyfriend or something to the parents or something. Exactly. And it's always like, there's a conversation that starts, where is he from? What family? Where are they from? So things like that. Like the moment it's like, okay, somebody in the family, somebody in the family is retarded or whatever word it is that they like to use. You understand? It's like people just don't want to be associated with that.
And it amazes me because, like, again, when I was talking to that guy, he was saying something around, I think he was worried about the intellectual disability. And I told him, have you ever heard of savant syndrome? For example, I said, if you heard,
he could be a genius.
I said, a lot of these people also present with savant syndrome, which means that they can have exceptional abilities, and abilities that even you cannot begin to comprehend, and that could be something to be celebrated. Again, I don't want to present, because that's not the case for everyone. And I think we'll talk about it. But
it's good to mention it, because
and I told him, sir, like, you don't even know what this child is. You don't even know, like, you don't have a crystal ball. Like I always tell my friends, we pray for long life, because if you live long enough, you can see the results of things, right? So this whole thing of linking autism with intellectual disability is something that really, really, I really take sort of a little bit personal. And you can tell from my I'm trying to calm myself down, because it really, really, I won't lie, it's something that I struggle with, when people come with that thing, right?
So maybe what helped me also was, one of the things I did when we got the diagnosis was not just trying to understand what autism is, right? I think to kind of like maybe allay my fears or something, I think one of the things I did was look up popular or, anybody that just, are there any autistic people?
Like famous ones.
Yeah, famous ones. And then when I started seeing Messi, I saw even Hopkins, Einstein, the actor, Anthony Hopkins. I saw, what's his name that just died? Eddie Murphy's dad in Coming to America.
James Earl
Jones, and all these people. So for me, it was like, okay,
there's some hope.
There's hope, But for most people, is again the pushback because of all the negatives they've heard. So and there's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. If you read the stories
of all those people,
they struggled.
That they all went through some sort of, again, like, so with the exceptional abilities, it doesn't happen to everyone, but at least it's
there's a possibility.
I think it's a positive there's a possibility, but So I mean, that's really around lack of understanding, right? But if we bring it back to Africa, is those false cultural beliefs. Those false cultural beliefs.
Should I say they've been passed down from generation to generation?
Forgetting that
it's an inheritance.
We come from a country where we had places where people used to throw babies away.
Yeah, that's like years.
Yeah, but then that when you hear that story, and it's not unique to Nigeria. That other, like Greeks, like the child is disabled, they throw it away. There's been a long culture of seeing disability as a bad omen. Right? It's been long because there's books written about it. There's poems. Is it Obanje? There's a popular. I think it was Soyinka that wrote Abiku.
There was Abiku. We watched that when we were kids.
The poem. We have a long history of seeing disability as ominous, or like an insidious thing that it creeps into your family and never leaves, and it's something that is like otherworldly and things like that. And I get it.
And that's the root cause of all this.
So that it's the child and the Obanje, and because of that they want to hide, because people don't want to see their family as that. Yeah, and then what other ones, like false cultural beliefs.
Yeah, I think we've touched on. So, is it an omen? We've talked about. Is it something the parents did? Is it in their lineage? Maybe somebody, an ancestor, did something some years ago, and then somebody placed a curse, and then we're here in our generation, and we had this child. You know,
your children will have autism.
It's just none of those. Then no, but as a result, you know, of all these things that we mentioned, right? People tend to, again, like the example I gave, not wanting their child to be there. Some people can't even church. I don't want us to take that, to talk about too much about that. Some people are like, you know, madam,
this is the problem with political correctness.
He disrupts service. Please don't come again. You know, that kind of thing. And then being even in society, like,
it's happened. So I've seen it happen to a friend of mine where he had he has a struggle with, you know, a disorder. And I don't want to. So I don't like to, you know, because I don't want to. Because it's his story to tell. Yeah. But suffice to say, he really had this connection to church, right? And he really, and I know that he's really someone who really takes that Christian life seriously. And one of the things that
to have that happen to him,
one of the things that pained me most about that situation was that, you know, this is somebody who would lose that, because, you know, like, people have different relationship with God, right? I have my own, right? I'm not so, you know, there's a lot of things that I think are, how will I say, I mean, around Christian faith and just religion in general that I think are exaggerated. And there are a lot of things that I don't believe are real. I think are more human-driven than God-driven.
Okay.
But
it's just humans being
I don't judge anybody for wanting that as well, because everybody needs to connect to God in their own way, right?
Yeah.
So this guy, his own way was like really being involved in church and everything, and, you know, and he went there and he was turned away, and he was turned away because he had been there before and caused a ruckus, right? He'd caused a little bit of a, he'd made some noise. Maybe, I think, spoken out and
but
maybe
then
abused the
understanding,
pastor or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was amazing that there was no one in that church that had the Christian charity. And this is what got me, right? And this is why I don't allow. I apologize because Abuzi, I know you don't like me talking about this.
I don't.
But this is why I actually don't allow that thing near me, with the whole church people near me, because I don't trust anybody.
Not just church people, just people in general.
No, Buzi.
Right?
No. I hold them to a higher standard. If you're going around saying I'm going to be Christ-like, I hold you to that standard. And if you're not that, then I don't want you near me or my family. You need to. You can't claim to be we're the church, we're in God family and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, let's not go into another topic.
So Christian, but
the
Christian,
fact,
Muslim, or doesn't matter, Hindu or whatever.
The fact that no, but
just
no. Don't you see? I know you're doing.
I'm just talking to people who are listening to us.
Doing.
No, Paul. You think you know what I'm doing?
Fine.
I'm just
let
saying.
me give the example.
Okay.
Right? I'm saying that. What shocked me was that there was nobody in that Christian God we all love, agape family that thought, okay, this guy has a challenge. This guy, is not as if he's doing it intentionally. This guy has a mental health issue, right? This guy is not like, when he's sober and he's good, he's part of your community. You love him. But when he has issues with, he went to the church and he was literally walked out of the church. They didn't let him in. They called bouncers, and I was in the car. I was looking at this thing. I was like, wow. Like, God knows I'm not coming to this church ever again. Like, first of all, right? And then after we left, I got a call. I said, "Oh, sir, so sorry. We didn't know that you were the one in the car. Right? I'm so sorry that happened." I'm like, "Oh, wow. So if you had known I was on the car, would you have let him in then?" And I think this is an example of what we're saying, right? And again, I'm not attacking any church or anything like that, but it's an example of what we're saying, that the discrimination, the lack of inclusion, the stigma is there because people get embarrassed by people who have mental health issues. They don't want to see. They don't want, and as much as people think they're more than, they're really not. There's a lot of cultural sort of like undertones to this issue, and people that become ostracized. The image of mental health in our country is unfortunately totally in the wrong place, and because of that, people and I think that's the main thing and again. Not that it doesn't happen in the West. Of course, in the West, you have people who have issues as well. But the difference in the West, and when I say the West, I mean, US, all these markets, when I say markets, all these
salesman,
all these countries, is that there's a system. So at least people see that because the system sort of works a bit, people say, oh yeah, this guy has autism. I remember we went to a store, I think it was M&S, and I was buying some clothes, and the guy at the till had his lanyard on. And I told you, hey, that kid
has autism
and he has a job at M&S. And I said, this is what I want for my son eventually. Like a society that allows him to be useful, right? And so like if I asked you, how do we, improving inclusion, fighting the stigma for autistic people, I'm sure it needs a lot of different things, right? How do we, and I apologize for being emotional on this episode. This one really gets me, now. You should not have invited me to this episode.
That's why you're here.
It'd have been much calmer for you. But yeah, so what are the things like?
Yeah, first of all, like what you and I are doing to start off is it stems from a lack of understanding first, and that's why I think I always said this podcast is all about awareness, understanding, and acceptance. Educating people about autism, and speaking about it and all that, and the education kind of covers everything, because if people are educated, for instance, if it's a child, is a parent, they are not hiding their children. They know that, yes, this child can thrive. He should probably be in school, And then there's hope also that perhaps he even go to higher education, get employment, those kind of things, right? But then if you let that fear stop you, then you have a child who's locked up and probably becomes an adult. So
do you think to promote, there should be more like public campaigns, educational programs? I think now with the internet, that has improved.
There's a lot,
internet.
Especially even the Autism Awareness Month, which is the month of April. But like I always tell people, it's not just about picking just one month and then after the whole autism awareness and 2nd of April, and it ends there. That's why people like me and you are constantly like talking about it, doing different things.
As hard as you
We're
guys.
Doing like, I've done trainings for.
There's so many. I want to do a shout out to all the people, who we cannot mention here, who are in the fights advocating for autism. I think every year we see amazing moms like you and your other super moms, your super mom group,
and it's the parents
and the parents coming together, and a few companies as well, one or two companies as well,
professionals that maybe it's their job. But for me, like I feel like the parents should actually champion this cause.
But I think that they do, right?
No, they do. I can't complain about my experiences and from people or whatever, or how my society perceives my child or how they treat my child if I don't do something about it.
Yeah, I think another one under education is trying to focus more on the strengths of instead of highlighting the challenges, and talk about a few of the unique abilities
that they have.
And I think even in education, and I think this is one big one for Nigeria, even having inclusive practices in education, right? I mean, being remember when, like in the West, people talk about affirmative action. Let's get more Black people into, let's get everybody, especially in this time, everybody has some sort of affirmative action that they want to do for people who are, it's either they're Black or they're gay or whatever, or they're trans, whatever. I think it's the same thing for people with ASD and other disabilities, that there should be intentional inclusive practices in the system.
And when we say inclusion, we mean inclusion, because what you find these days, and this topic for another day, is a school says it's an inclusive school, and then you go there and you find a special needs child there who's not quite included in anything.
Yeah.
But
So, I think to be fair, again, the reason why I point to system again, it's not like it's not like it's perfect, but at least like in the UK, for example, they have the EHCP thing, where if you are able to get through that.
Your child gets a place.
Your child gets placed in. He gets placed in the proper, school, and he gets a plan. I think in the US that's an IEP
or something.
I wish we had something similar in Nigeria, where the government actually has a policy that insists that people with special needs should be taken care of by the state, the same way they do in some countries where there's a specific plan. So that will really sort of like improve. I think the environment themselves. You see, it seems that this is my topic. I'm on fire.
I know,
with this
that's
one,
why
right?
I thought it was. I thought of you and I said no. We need to talk about this.
So that I think the environment themselves within the educational system also need to be adjusted, because it's like people come to Nigeria and you find out that most buildings don't even have ramps.
They don't have ramps. I was just waiting for you to finish.
In wheelchairs, right?
Yes.
So I think even in the educational system, the way the classrooms are designed, the way the classrooms are built, they're not really built to accommodate. Remember when we were on that project? Remember when we had the talking books?
Yes.
And we wanted to say, hey, look, this is a book that when the pen touches the word, it reads the word. We would love to see this book, around. And I think the company, I don't know what happened to that company. They had a brilliant idea. And I remember that we went to a bank and the bank said do support, but they didn't end up doing it. But tools like that, that talking book was a great tool. I think tools like that going into, especially because in Nigeria we have so many inner city schools, government schools that are actually poor and not catered for, right? A simple, inexpensive thing that I think the government should be doing to at least put some tools into the hands of people who are training people, with different disorders. And I think even in the class, the teachers should be trained on how to understand kids who have special needs and how to, the classroom, is there a ramp? The sensory.
Well, we need to get you to the National Assembly.
So sometimes with the sensory issues, the lights and everything, sometimes those kids cannot even learn in that sort of environment. So can you do that?
I've been to schools where they don't, or they're not aware, they haven't done their research. So I mean, they're like you said, bright lights. There are children with ASD who don't, when everywhere is colorful, it becomes too much for them.
This is one of the issues I had with
go to a class and there's pink,
school.
red, paper. The teacher has over decorated the class and it's just too much for. So this is just an example. Like you said,
he's wondering what the hell is
happening.
Going on.
It's too much stimulation and that kind of thing. So I mean.
So sensory friendly environments are important, and I think in the workplace, again, some of these things were so. Nigeria now or Africa now, we're so far from these things, but it's still good to hope. Right?
I'm not even talking about workplace, to be honest, because I don't think I've even seen anybody that is
important.
Back home. I don't think I've seen anybody that is even
important because struggling. I feel that
because our children are going to grow up get to that stage.
Not even that. I feel that we lose a lot by not taking advantage of some of the brilliance that some people with, especially people with
neurodivergent people,
with the special skills,
because they think out of the box. They're
capable of so much creativity. Out of the box thinking. Like sometimes when I look at Zia, the way Zia approaches problems, like honestly, I would never have. And I'm not totally neurotypical myself, right? But sometimes the way you always tell me that, Paul, like sometimes you're weird, like the way I end up where I want to go. Sometimes I start somewhere and then I'm like, I know what I'm doing. And sometimes you're like, Paul, like how? And I'm like, I don't know. This is how I work. But with this, it's even like 10 times that. Like sometimes, how I say a straight line to a solution. Sometimes I'll be like, wow, this is, for me, I was struggling with doing the thing. So I think we lose a lot of opportunities by not having things like flexible work arrangements for them to be able to come to work and work from home. Those things we lose. Sensory friendly, same as the schools, right? Sensory friendly workplaces and sensory friendly schools. We lose the training of people just being aware. So because the other episode you were saying that it's an invisible disability, and I was telling you what does that mean, and I'm like, if your colleague came to work in a wheelchair, you would know, right? So
yes,
okay,
he has
make space for him.
yeah.
But when somebody has autism, they don't know. So I think also training colleagues is okay. Look, this is what if the guy comes with his big earphones and his big duffel bag. You should understand, right? And then I think I also want to mention general community, instruction and sort of inclusion, things like that. There is, luckily for us today, there's technology that sort of helps a bit, right? So there are a lot of these apps and things like that. You know what? Let me even simplify, Buzi. Even something as simple as the lanyard, the sunflower.
People don't even know. So I don't think
in
Nigeria
Ziza has 2 bracelets, right?
With the autism
and the other one that he wears here. Sometimes he wears the lanyard when he's going out, and he has the
once somebody sees sunflower.
I noticed that once, if we're in the UK, for example, once people see that, they know, and then they immediately switch on, and they even if they don't really feel it inside, immediately, if it's at the store, the person immediately
make accommodations,
makes accommodations. Oh, hi, are you okay? And then they change. In Nigeria, sometimes they're looking at the lanyard, they don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it means, right? And which is why. So when the time that we're in Nigeria, when I'm putting it on, he has to say, I have autism.
Yeah. Another thing is, you just mentioned this point is some people. I've spoken to quite a number of people. Some people also shy away from even having anything that shows that their child is on the spectrum. So for me, like you said, going out with Ziza, maybe to a supermarket or just public spaces, right? I like it when he has his lanyard. Because people make accommodations, right? People just generally understand. So even if he does something out of the ordinary or something, they just know, okay, I can understand why. Yeah. You understand. But then I've talked to some mothers who feel, oh, that's labeling my child, or it's almost like you said, it's like a signboard or something on the person's forehead. I have autism, and they don't want that.
Yeah.
So basically, it still comes down to what you're saying. Yeah. We need to talk about it.
Systematic tools, like even inclusive healthcare, because most hospitals in Nigeria don't have a clue what you're talking about when you sort of walk in there. So even within our healthcare systems, to train, like somebody comes with autism and they're not supposed to give him an injection like that. Like, it's not going.
They're
to
like, stay now. Like, it's not
stay,
painful.
Let's inject you. I'm like, yo,
please. So I don't want to.
The kid has autism. The kid doesn't even like to be touched. Talk less of having a needle pierce his skin, right? Sometimes even like how they wear those gloves, even the latex on the glove can set him off, right? Yeah. So but nobody in the hospital seems to know anything about that. Nobody is sort of it's like, so even having that inclusiveness within the healthcare system, that sort of needs to happen. And I think for older people, for older adults on the spectrum, also including them in the conversation, asking them what they need. Like sometimes they can tell you what they need, but everybody seems to want to make decisions for them, right? It's another thing.
It's in Nigeria. That's actually what I'm missing. I wish I had I don't think I've met like an adult autistic person.
No, I've met one.
It's rare.
So
they don't
remember when Tonya Falugi, aka our good friend Tonya, was doing her podcast.
Oh, okay. My friend, my darling friend.
Yeah,
yes,
his name is.
Okay, so he's doing a good job.
His name is the creative director guy. Oh wow.
I can't believe I've forgotten the name. But
then,
anyway,
I know
was
who
on
you're
the podcast
talking about. With them, and then he was. It was the first time I was with somebody who was living with autism as an adult, and I was very impressed because
he helps you understand.
But you know what? I could see that even on that podcast, he was.
Yeah, but he's doing a great job.
He was managing his thing. In fact, before I even said, I told him, okay, I see where you are. And then, of course,
and there are lots of them.
Things like policy, advocacy, we can do better with that.
I said earlier that perhaps we should take you to the National Assembly. Policy. Somebody has to be willing to, champion discourse.
No,
Somebody has to
listen. I'm sure that people are already doing that.
The system doesn't work. We have to, and again, nobody's going to do it. The educators, so people.
I don't know. I haven't checked.
They are not. I'd like to say I've read about it, and funny enough, even in the US, even in the UK, you find that a lot of people who pushed to get things in place were parents.
Are you pitching something to me?
They were parents.
What are you saying?
So not just you, people are listening. So, I'm just saying you might be.
Like I said, I'm very sure that there are people who are trying. Like in fact, I'm pretty sure that people who are trying to put those policies in haven't done enough research, so I can't speak to it. But I think just for the purpose of the podcast is just to say these are things that we feel could improve that. Having more, having more autism, and I think just even having someone who can sort of speak up. So I think it's all about challenging stigma, challenging stereotypes, in the media, especially.
Oh, I've done quite a lot there as well.
Especially to change that image of the mad person on the road. I mean, I wish people could make Nollywood guys, if you're listening, make a movie about
I think,
that people can relate to.
One or two movies.
Nigerian ones?
Yes.
I haven't seen them.
I know. Mrs. Dutton has done a movie.
She has.
I'm sure. I think there's a second one. I think I saw that on Facebook or somewhere.
Share with me.
I'll
what they say.
I think I'll mention it so people can.
What they say, the young people, they say put link in description.
Okay, yeah.
I've not known what that means.
There's a link that leads you to Paul.
Sure.
Come on, this is 2024.
So do you want to close? One thing that I'd like to say is, if you're out there listening to this podcast, please avoid using the words retarded. It's so mean. Like, you should avoid. I think people should try and be a little more sensitive. And when you see someone with mental challenges, try to avoid things like that.
I mean, we should be as humans, we should be willing to make changes, accommodate people. Even though I'm a mom who has a child, right? For me, the struggle is like, unfortunately, Ziza can't have like a full-blown conversation. He can't tell us this is how it works and all this kind of things. So I just do the best that I can. But even for me, I'm mindful. When you go on social media, you see, first of all, it was saying an autistic person, and some autistic people said they don't like that. They don't like being referred to with their label first, before that. So you make changes, right? So like you rightly said, people have to be very mindful of. I mean, if you're not sure, better to find out or even ask the person, just so you don't say anything.
So I think
hurtful.
So this has been more of a Paul episode than a Boozy episode, I think.
Have you let everything out?
A little bit, I must say. I feel
better.
A little bit better because I've been holding some of these things inside. But I'll let you close. Like, how would you?
Yeah. So I think inclusion, is very, very important for autistic individuals. We have to make accommodations. We just have to, I think, gain knowledge so that we know what to do. Mainly because when we have that knowledge, we kind of like create an environment that includes them. An environment that helps them to thrive better and all that. And I think it's necessary also to kind of like understand their uniqueness. Just because something is different doesn't make it bad. When we started, you said something about society is a certain way, neurotypicals are a certain way. So now we have people and we're saying autism is a difference in the way the brain works. Let's accept those people. That's I'm not you doesn't mean that mine is bad. So
well said.
So inclusion. Let's talk about it. Sometimes also, I will say one thing with people: you are never too old to learn. I always like this. And what is it that is said?
I don't know.
Learn, relearn, and unlearn and relearn. Right. So with stigma, which I mean, like we said, some of them comes from our culture and stuff like that. We should be able to grow and drop off some things because we learn every day.
Yeah.
Right. So don't get stuck on these old things and what times are changing, new things are coming up. You have to just learn new things, make changes and all that. I just pray. I'm old now and everything. I just look forward to
seeing. That old.
I just look forward to seeing a society that actually, accepts children with autism, like really engages them, like going out to see, even if it's Mr. Biggs or wherever I enter, that my child is well taken care of. He doesn't stand out just because he's different in a bad way, and you talked about policy.
I think I think there's a lot more to tackle in the next episodes around sort of things like that. We're out of time for today. I'm hoping that we've covered the stigma subject well, and catch you guys on the next episode. Please share this with anyone. And I apologize if anyone is offended by my,
Christian,
by my tirade.
I was going to say that.
On some of the things. Prayer is good. Prayer is the master key, people.
Prayer is good, yeah. I agree.
But don't overdo it, please. Get a plan and sort of do some work. And on that note,
we're out. People, just be kind. Be kind.
Like shit. Are you trying to send me a message? Are you saying that I'm not kind?
Anyway, thank you for listening. Like, share, post, whatever. Bye.
Bye.